In a lot of ways, the artistic spirit is looking at the church in an inaccurate and negative light and saying, like, you're the man, we need to run away from you. You have the rules, I don't need rules. The church has always been revolutionary. You know, you look at the life of Christ, he was absolutely revolutionary. You look at the early Christians, and they were, they were totally frustrating the institution immensely. The only time the church stops being revolutionary is at the second coming.
Welcome to the Exposing Catholic Show, where we expose the lives, interactions, and stories of Catholics. Our guest today is Father Dominic Gideon. Welcome on.
What a pleasure. Thank you.
So you are a priest at St. Albert the Great in North Royalton. It's a great place here. It looks really nice.
Yeah. I didn't know what to expect coming here, but it has been such a blessing, wonderful big parish, school, and plenty of ministries. And so I think the Lord and the bishop help me get to the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you're baby priest. You were ordained when?
May 20th, 2023. So like 9 months ago.
Got it. And you can just look at us.
Okay, sorry.
Just ignore the camera. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah, gotcha.
Like staring at the camera.
Conversation.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to get into kind of like what called you to priesthood and get into the creative side of things there.
Yeah.
So what was the call like?
Yeah. So it's funny, people imagine, okay, God's calling you. So you sit there one day and then he says, you're going to be a priest. And then you're like, well, that's it.
Was that what it was like for you?
Not at all.
No? Okay.
No. I mean, some people have dramatic experiences, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I was on retreat and God called me, and so that's valid. Like, God speaks to people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I found God, I don't as much, I very little hear words from God, but God gives nudges, God gives direction and gives me people. And so I experienced my call to the priesthood, particularly through some priests of the parish. And so as I kind of, I think the first thing is I had a good family who took me to church and sent me to Catholic school. And so I had a good experience of my faith. And then, as a server and stuff, a couple of priests were like, hey, you should be a priest. Or they'd make a joke or something. I'm like, yeah, maybe. But then I think about around 8th grade, I was like, okay, that's an option. And then like throughout high school, and we could kind of tie in the creative stuff later, but I was kind of grappling, what do I do with my life? But I think deep down I had this like desire for priesthood. And I think I saw priesthood as just such a life-giving, fulfilling, and beautiful ministry. And I saw what it meant for a priest to be a part of a community in such an intimate way, to have such a connection with people and be part of people's lives. And so I think I was always drawn to the community aspect of just being a father to a community. And so then throughout high school, I was kind of like, I think I'm going to be a priest, but I don't want to go to seminary right now. So I was like, okay, I'll go off to college, because I always loved writing and I always wanted to kind of get into that. So I thought I'll run away and go to a fun college for 4 years, and then maybe God will call me to be a priest. But what happened was, so I went on a come and see weekend at the seminary. I was like, this is nice, this is fun. But then I told the vocation director at the time, Father Mike McCandless, not now, I'm going to go to college. And he was like, oh, really? And but then the summer before senior year, I did Tolle Lege, which is a program at the seminary, and which is funny because it's at the seminary, but I was one of 2 guys in the program along with like 10 girls. So I was surrounded by women, but in the midst of that, there was a peace that I found at the seminary that I never felt anywhere else. So I visited a couple colleges in New York, a college in Vermont, like perfect English program, a great, on paper, great opportunity. But there was just an unrest. But at the seminary, I was like, this is it. And so, and also amidst that, I went to a creative writing workshop at John Carroll, so for high school students, and which was great because what really drew me in, what really kind of sealed the deal was like, oh, I get to go to seminary and go to John Carroll. I get to have a college experience, meet other people, study English, and, go to seminary. So what I found is I wasn't choosing between writing and priesthood. I was, this was confirmed after entering seminary, that the Lord was calling me to both in a new way. And so that kind of is what got me in the door.
That's awesome. So let's talk about that writing a little bit. Like, what were you writing? What type of writings is it? And that side of things.
So I guess like my vocation story with writing, I remember second grade, fourth grade. I was in English class, and we would like once a week or something, the teacher would let us write stories and then give it in front of the class. And so that was like my favorite thing in school, is I got to write these stories, share these stories with my friends, and concoct like these wild, funny, engaging, with what I thought was that. I don't know what my classmates did, but and so so I loved, I guess, storytelling, story writing, and so and then I got into like journalism, so a different kind of storytelling, a little bit more, obviously based on reality. So that was big in high school, and then in college I got more into poetry, and so because poetry is always intimidating, we normally don't understand poetry, so then we think it's stupid, so then we just like throw it in the trash. But like in college, I majored in, along with philosophy, I majored in creative writing, and so I was like, oh, this is beautiful, and then got less intimidated about writing it. So, so fiction and poetry, I really enjoy, but also I enjoy also the creative aspects of other things. What I'm finding also in preaching is I could kind of tie in a little aesthetic beauty in the midst of that kind of storytelling.
So does that play into your homilies and how you write the homilies?
I think it does play into it. I think what I've found is that writing, if I just write homilies, that's not going to satisfy my creative urge. So I think everyone needs some sort of creative outlet, but there's some people who have a greater urge and desire to create, and for me, if all I'm writing is homilies, then there's like a sense of lack. I'm not creating in the way that I feel is most fulfilling. So I always try to make sure I have some sort of poetry or short story that I'm working on that can give me, kind of enliven in me that creativity. But with homilies and some of the other things, there's an interplay, like telling a vivid story, or using a really powerful image in a homily can draw on a lot of the principles of creativity that and creative writing that I've kind of picked up.
And I just think it's the Catholic Church in general has a ton of art and beauty, and just everything kind of is infused with like reality, and the fact that if you look at the cathedral, there's so much art on the walls, on the ceilings, and the way that the building is just built with like the giant pillars and everything from like icons to the rosary to all these different like images and things kind of tie in and draw you closer to God. And I think you talking about the homilies and being able to visually and weave these words together to help the person understand what you're talking about is super powerful. And then on top of that is just like that's what the Catholic Church does in general, is reveals God through those beautiful things. I mean,
Yeah.
like monstrances are one of my favorite things because they're all similar, but they also are all they have like their own creative flair to them that really emphasizes the Eucharist. Like we were just at a Catholic museum in Columbus, and they had a ton of monstrances all over the place, and like some of them had nice blues and these nice colors throughout them.
Some of them had like relics on them.
Yeah. And so it's just like that in general. And I know you want to talk about taking pictures.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, photography is one of my hobbies. And when I first started photography, I was like, my brother loved cars. So I would like go to car shows and take pictures of cars. And then it like morphed into like me loving Catholicism and just like wanting to capture like the beauty of Catholicism. And so I absolutely love going to churches and just really anything. God's creation is beautiful, and so just being able to capture that. But I find that, like, for me, the most in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think photography, that's something that I like. I mean, I don't have much probably training or great skill in it, but I'm friends with some photographers. Also, my friend Father Patrick Anderson, he was actually the young priest at the parish I grew up in. It was his first assignment, so he kind of helped me get into or discern priesthood. But also, our friendship has become very creative. And he's a very creative guy. I am too, and he loves photography. And I think one thing about photography is that we all can see the same thing. We all could go to church and see something, but to take a picture in a certain way to capture the truth of or the beauty in a particular shot can be very hard. People are like, oh, photography, just take a camera. No, like actually sometimes photography is harder than a painting because you're dealing with real life. A painting, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put a little flower there. It's gonna look nice. But for like you think about these photojournalists, like they have to deal with the world in front of them, but at the same time try to express the beauty and the truth that they want to capture. And so which is a beautiful kind of area of art.
Yeah, I'm not artistic in the way I wish I was of like actually painting. I'm just a mess when it comes to that. Like I'll get it all over the place and then there'll be like nothing on the canvas. But anyways, like photography is just like, and I also love music and theater and like all that, like any sort of creative outlet. Like, but I just think photography is like what I'm best at right now. Just Catholic art. And like when you go to we were at the museum and like just seeing all the paintings and the stained glass windows and all of these different like pieces of art, but just like history also that's infused in those is just beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a beautiful thing about art is art is an artist making something, but also the artist is putting their own fingerprint in that, and so much of art has this strong historical tie. I mean, same thing with the scriptures. Scriptures are stories about Jesus, but and also the Old Testament, all that stuff, but you see the fingerprint of the author. And so there's and I think with art in general, creating art is an image of God the Father's creation. So God the Father makes us as co-creators of His world, which is kind of a stunning reality. Like, okay, the most profound thing is to create a human being. So you guys get to do that. Have fun. But along with that is to create, to form God's creation in
kind of our own, expression of God's beauty. And so, so there's really a strong power to, and I guess theology behind art, is that God gives, unlike any other creature, God gives us the ability to create just like our Father, our Father in heaven. So we have some of that divine, godliness in our art.
We've got something special for all our Catholic organizations. Now, before you skip past this part, it's not an ad. It's more like an incredible opportunity to take your digital presence to the next level. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Something only for our podcast listeners. We, DM Productions, have a 2-day Catholic social media makeover course. It's an online course specifically made for Catholic organizations. It will take your social media to the next level. And we make it easier than ever with our step-by-step video walkthroughs, cheat sheets, customizable templates, and more. Catholic organizations, let's start creating the quality and results that secular businesses have, but with the depth and beauty of Catholicism. Oh, and did I mention the price? $700. But remember I said I was going to let you in on a little secret? Use code DMPodcast to get it completely free. No credit card required. Just pop that code in and you're all set. Head over to www.dm.productions/social media makeover or click the link in the description. Now back to the show. I don't think we landed the plane on the seminary and writing. So can we go back to how did seminary form you and your writing and that whole experience?
Yeah. So I think going into seminary, part of me was, I knew I got to go to John Carroll and stuff, but I was like, okay, well, I kind of need to put aside this writing thing. I get to indulge in it a little bit, but I wasn't really sold on the fact that I got to, like, the Lord was saying yes to both of my desires. But what I found is that, in surprising ways, God really handed me a great formation as an literary artist, as well as formation for priesthood. And so my second semester of seminary, Father Damien Ferrance, who was at the seminary at the time, he saw this ad for this Catholic Writers Conference in California. And so there was like Catholic novelists and poets all gathering together. And I was like, that sounds incredible. So I, got people to help fund a plane ride to California. And so as a freshman in college, I was surrounded and had this incredible experience that I would have never had otherwise. I probably would have never, if I went to a college elsewhere, I probably would have never found out about that. But so for me, that was such a strong confirmation, like, God, you put me where I'm meant to be. And you actually provided in ways that, in greater ways than I thought I could provide for myself. So that was great. And then I found that philosophy was such a incredible duo to my creative art, because what philosophy did for me was it showed me truth, and allowed that understanding of truth to be better expressed in art. And so so in philosophy we learn about the three transcendentals, so beauty, truth, and goodness. And so those are like the three basic ways that we encounter God in the world. So goodness is like the goodness of creation. Food is good. A sunset is good. And then truth is like obviously the intellectual ideas that we can capture in our mind. And beauty is a combination of both of those. So when we take our truth and add it to the goodness of the world, then that is beauty. That's at least our creative beauty, and then God's beauty's all over. So I think that it was similar. Like, I took the goodness of what God gave me in a gift, and then I found some truth in the philosophy and faith that I found, and then that just enhanced my ability to create beauty. And then on top of that, I found that so seminary formation helped my craft, but also my craft helped my formation. So, when someone creates, when an artist creates, they're not just putting things down on paper that they already knew, but they're actually they're coming to a greater realization of that
as they're creating it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so what I was doing is I had all these emotions and feelings, and as like an 18, 19, 20, whatever year old, I was grappling with the fact that I will never kiss a girl again in my life, let alone get married. And so all of that just barfed on paper, and then I was like, I started to understand my vocation better, my call, my heart, and then taking that to prayer. And so there was a really beautiful interplay. Yeah,
I think there's a very powerful thing to be said about like journaling, because I went through a program where they're like, okay, you're going to start journaling. I'm like, all right.
Lame.
And so like being able to write those things down and to kind of, to not just be like, okay, I could think about it and then boom, like I'm done dealing with it. So to be able to write it down on a piece of paper, and then the most powerful thing was we then took those things to adoration. So we sat in front of the monstrance, in front of the host, and then you kind of like go through them in prayer. And so, yeah, I just feel like that's so, it's a way that can dig deeper into the heart that I don't think just thinking about it could. Because as you're writing, more things start to pop up. But if you're just thinking about them, your brain's just like boom, 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 and it's just going to those rather than being able to get them down on a piece of paper and then to really dig deeper and deeper on those, especially if you're trying to grapple with some sort of hurt or trauma or just some sort of wound that needs to be healed, to then bring that to Jesus in front of the monstrance and the host is powerful.
Yeah. Because I mean, think this is just a deeper truth that we need to manifest what we're experiencing in order to encounter it greater, which is just the truth of the incarnation. Like God had to become man for us to truly encounter the person of God and to give him our sins and so that's sacramental. So like we need to confess our sins to a priest for them to be forgiven. Like to hold them in is not the same as speaking those to a minister who's in the person of Christ. And so that applies to obviously the sacraments, to our emotional life, but to the life of the artist is that. And I found this in college too, is that we think that we're super smart going to these classes, but then until you write a paper and like really try to hash out and dissect these topics, then you don't really understand it as deeply. And so journaling and but I think art engages a little bit of a higher realm through that, like creativity. I was talking to one of the Christ the Bridegroom nuns, and she said, I could write 10 pages of journaling, or I could write one poem on a page, and that poem can more encapsulate what I'm encountering and feeling than those 10 pages of journaling, which is that kind of incarnational truth. The more we can depict our experience through the sensory outlet of arts, the more it engages that reality.
As you were saying that, like, I was thinking about songwriting. Like, that is a form of poetry for sure. And like I connect a lot with music, and so like that you were saying like, oh, people just kind of throw out poetry, but then you think of how many people are like, think of your life without music, like that would be terrible. And so they really are more into poetry than they may realize. And so when you're reading the lyrics and like going through like what they're actually saying in like some of your favorite songs, like I'm thinking of some of my favorite worship songs, for example, of like these are forms of like poetry and prayer. and like they really, really encapsulate like true, deep human emotion. And just like being able to let that out in a form of worship, especially. I love doing that. I like praise and oh my gosh, sorry.
Praise and worship.
Praise and worship. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And it helps so much more than like just going and like sitting by myself. Like being able to do that is just, I don't know, the best form of, I guess, coping, or like just wanting to get your feelings out when you're happy, when you're sad, like when you're worried, when you're anxious. Like being able to do that, it always does the job for me. And I'm sure a lot of other people too. I mean, praise and worship is, I guess, sacramental in a way. You know, we get to you know, I think you can never contend with contemplative prayer in terms of like, you know, sitting with God's presence, but with praise and worship, you're literally using your vocal cords to express your emotions. You know, people are using their bodies to praise the Lord. And so that incarnational prayer offers us, you know, that encounter.
Can we talk about creative prayer? Like, what is the... Yeah, most people are thinking like, okay, you sign on a cross, and then you get down into to your prayer and just start, you know, rattling off some stuff, whether it's like a Hail Mary or an Our Father, or just like a random whatever you want to say type of prayer. But it could be way more than that. So we're talking about praise and worship. We're talking about moving our bodies. What other things could creative prayer be? Yeah.
So it's pretty, my, I guess, journey in prayer is pretty interesting in that I, you know, went throughout seminary and kind of was dabbling in different prayers or different forms of prayer. And I kind of found myself like in a bit of a rut, like, okay, I don't feel prayer is feeding me as much as it has been. And then I went to the Institute for Priestly Formation. They have a summer program out in Omaha, Nebraska. And so it's a wonderful 2-month program where you have an 8-day silent retreat, and then it leads into classes and good community with other seminarians across the country. And it's really big in the Ignatian method of spirituality, which has part of that is imaginative prayer. And what I found there, it was a type of prayer that I really kind of left behind in high school, because I was, you know, kind of finding other ways to pray. But things clicked because I was like, oh my gosh, this is a creative way to pray, which is me, you know, like that's how I am. So I think the first thing is we need to pray how we are. You know, for some people, praise and worship is the last thing that they want to do, and we shouldn't force them. But for some people, like for me, I was like, I need to engage my imagination to, I guess, pray the best. And so, at least that's kind of my favorite way to pray is looking at the scriptures and using my imagination to encounter Christ, to encounter these scenes, and so you and filling in the gaps. The crazy thing is that in one scripture passage, people write books because they're like, okay, well, what, you know, where were they at? Who was the crowd surrounding them? So looking at people's faces in Jesus' crowds, being able to imagine the woman touching Jesus' garments, and how is the reactions. And I think that's why The Chosen is just beloved, because it is very much so kind of the imaginative prayer brought to the theaters. People get to see the fruit of of many people's kind of spiritual imagination come to life. And so that's one way that I really appreciate my creativity interplaying with my prayer.
what other things could be prayer? So I'm thinking of my two favorite ones that I like to do are offer up a workout for prayer, and then kind of like pray throughout. I get very distracted during it, so I don't know how productive that prayer is, but just like offering that up. And then I was sick with like food poisoning or something twice. And it was the first time I was like, I cannot go through this again. It was right after the cruise, after the honeymoon. I'm like, wow, I'm not going to be able to go through that. And then it happened a few months after that again.
Oh,
I was like,
so bad.
Here we go. But this time, my four-way medal, as I was just like barfing my brains out, was like, it was like dangling down. And I was like, okay, I'll offer this up.
Yeah.
So, but I never thought about it the first time. So then when I was offering it up, there's this peace that I've never been able to experience before. And like, okay, like I would do this for the souls of purgatory. But like, yeah, it was just such a powerful thing. And like there's this amount of grace that was poured down, which made it wasn't fun still, but it made it so that it was like, okay, I'll do this for the souls of purgatory, like if that's what I'm called to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and like, you know, that is helping bring about the goal of praying without ceasing. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to be hanging out in the chapel having some incredible revelation as I'm barfing in the toilet, but maybe I could at least encounter Christ in his suffering. And so there's something beautiful there. And especially during this Lent, I've been encouraging the people to, as we kind of strip away some of the excess in our lives, we're exposing kind of the simplicity of life. And I think especially in our world today, we constantly think that we don't have enough. We don't have enough noise. We don't have enough stimulus. We don't have enough color. And so we just try to shove a bunch of stuff in our life. You fill all of our moments with a bunch of stuff, which then is desensitizing us from the beauty of just God's creation. And just the world in general. And I think what I've found is that the poetic eye and the spiritual eye are very similar. So what they both do is they look at what can be seemingly the most mundane thing and find the divine or beauty, which is the same. And so, what I love is poetry that can look at a rock and find, you know, depths like volumes of beauty. And so, you know, historically you could reflect on the history of it. You could talk about kind of some human similarities, like, oh well, I am a rock, you know, which a little cheesy probably. but I think one way to pray is just to encounter the world more contemplatively. And so how can we just take the boringness of life that we already have, but then find God's presence all written throughout it? And so sitting at the doctor's office, and you could either scroll on your phone and find as many things as possible to entertain you, or you could look at the cute little child running around, or, you know, the weird carpet that might evoke something, you know? So all of that, I think, has potential for reflection, but also an encounter with the Lord.
Yeah. Also, just like going outside in nature is a huge way that I find like just God in everywhere. Like looking out at the sky and being like, thank you, God, for like you didn't need to make it beautiful, but you did. And just like the trees, and like we're planting a garden and all this stuff, and like we're gonna be able to grow our own vegetables. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But, like just finding beauty in like the everyday. Like it doesn't need to be crazy. But when you think about it that way, it really changes your perspective on a lot of things. Yeah. And like you become a lot more grateful, I think. At least I have, for sure. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, nature is a huge part of, I don't know, like my faith life, and the fact that you can take a plant and propagate it.
Yeah.
So, like, snip off a branch or take a leaf off a succulent, and then that will then grow roots to become its own thing, and just like being able to see that type of like life cycle, I guess, which is way quicker than, like, I feel like people are like, okay, yeah, you can see that in humans with like babies and stuff, but I feel like that from start to finish is way longer of a period, and you can't really see like, holy cow, that is incredible that in just like a month or two you can take a succulent leaf or tomato seed that you got from literally out of the thing you just ate, and then see it grow into this little plant that's starting to sprout. So and so like gardening, you're like that can be prayerful, and just encountering the beauty of life, which is just from some sprout to beautiful tomato or something, and then then you like eat that food, and then it's just has so much more depth and meaning. It's not just like picked off of from a grocery store, but it's cultivated, and just it's passed, and but even like you think about dirt. Like dirt is one of probably people can think is the most boring, gross thing. It's just like brown, but like to cultivate good dirt, you have to let things die and put in. I'm interested in kind of like composting, or even like micro composting with my little plants. So there's just so much richness in that, let alone anything that we encounter. But there's one of the old spiritual directors at the seminary said that there's 3 direct ways to encounter God: is Scripture, nature, and icons. Obviously,
I think Father Mike McCandless said that.
I think
I remember. I remember something like that.
Yeah. We're all at Cleveland Seminary. Cleveland priests have been formed very similarly. So yeah, we'll tell these stories thinking that they're novel, but all like 200 of us are saying the same stories. Quoting the same guy. But yeah. So those are, which is interesting because Scripture is probably a little easier to understand. Icons, has the same divine presence as Scripture, but then nature is thrown in there, So there's it really kind of shows number one, icons, like how beauty is incarnate in the incarnation of Christ, but also nature. Like, let's go back to Genesis. God created the world, and let's not ignore the fact that God is present and is trying to speak to us. So yesterday was my day away from the parish, and it was glorious. So I went, I was driving down I-90 anyway to meet up with my family, and I just stopped by Lake Erie and spent 30 minutes just by the waves, sitting on rocks, looking at ducks and geese, and it was really beautiful.
Yeah, there's a beauty in that slowness, to be able to just sit there and to take it in and not be like, oh, my phone keeps buzzing, and like keep getting distracted by all these things, but to just sit there. I'm actually famously known by my family to not ever be able to get a hold of, because my phone is always on silent and does not vibrate. Yeah. And I have so much more peace when it's like that. If I know there's an important call coming, I'll flip it on to like make a sound. But other than that, it's always on silent and no vibrating, because I don't want the thing buzzing in my pocket all the time, reminding me about something else when I could be taking in what's right in front of me.
Yeah, the people in front of you, the experiences in front of you. One thing that I've loved doing with a couple of friends is every year we try to take we call it a Ohio day venture. So we spend from maybe 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. we'll just drive around Ohio and just enjoy because my thing is that as a Clevelander, I don't know Ohio. You know, people talk about Ohio. It's like, I'm from Cleveland. I have a lake. I have a city. You know, we have, you know, our own struggle. We have some, like, East Coast influence, you know, we're whatever. So to encounter the rest of Ohio, like, makes me feel, okay, I guess I am from Ohio. But these small towns, you know, these, like, simple roads, and also, like, yeah, getting off the highway and just driving, you know, these slow rides, stopping at stop signs and then looking at these houses, you know. There's something kind of contemplative about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you kayak or paddleboard or anything like that?
No. I mean, I'd be interested. And also the thing is, and my older brother says this, like, we have a lake. Let's do something with it, you know. And we have a river. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I guess I've done some canoeing and stuff or stuff like that. But yeah, that'd be a great thing to get into.
Yeah, you were mentioning the waves and sitting by the rocks. My favorite spot to go is Ladue, or it's also known as like the Akron Reservoir.
Oh.
And it's because I feel like almost every single time I've gone there, I've seen bald eagles.
Oh.
So it's a very cool thing to be able to... What?
The one time we went, you thought it was a bald eagle. It was not. It was like a hawk or something.
I did not think it was a bald eagle.
Continue.
Okay, whatever. I'm sure we saw one anyway. But yeah, it's like a very simple kind of lake. And then you could go to the other side underneath the little bridge that they have. But I don't know. I just wanted to say that. And now you made it sound like there's not bald eagles there. So
no, there is. But it was really sweet. You took me there on our like third date.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 3 a.m. to watch. He picked me up and we went paddleboarding and watched the sunrise on the lake, which was really, really cute. But and just very, very peaceful too.
Yeah.
Like definitely. I mean,
except
waking
when I
up
fell
at
in the water.
Oh no.
That was awkward. But
third date, water, falling in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was our third date.
I was getting off the paddleboard and I thought...
You didn't fall in like the whole time.
So
like
we were
the couple
done.
hours.
Yeah, we were done already.
And it was when you're like getting off to go on the dock and you slip in.
Yeah, because it was like very deceiving. There was this little pathway like underneath the water.
Yeah.
And then there's this hole on the other side. And I accidentally fell into the hole.
Oh gosh.
So, and then we went to church. I changed and I still smelled
really
it
weird.
was okay.
Oh
really
no.
weird.
Yeah, that mucky, lake water. Yeah.
Anyways, point of the story it was really beautiful. You should try it. I don't know if we like convinced you.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sold.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I mean, getting up at 3 a.m. doesn't always sound fun, but it is worth it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You could always do the sunset though.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're
exactly.
not a morning person, I'm not really. But
Yeah. 3 a.m. every once in a while,
Yes. Yeah, every once in a while.
Regularly, no thank you.
Yeah.
I will find many other things to do with my life if I have to wake up that early.
Yeah. Can we talk about Cleveland Catholic Creatives?
Yeah.
And your involvement with that. That's actually where we first met you.
Yeah.
At least I first met you there. And you were on crutches. And
I was.
You couldn't go on the tour.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy day. I had torn my ACL. I didn't know it at that point. And we had like a seminary commitment. But like we had gotten so one of our creatives is getting a doctorate in particular area of art history from Case Western Reserve. So we were like, you should do a tour, and she did, and supposedly it was good. But also, there's kind of an event that I think we were really happy about because it engaged people. Like you guys wanted to come. You guys never came to anything before that, but you were like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So it engaged people, from the greater community and it engaged our local community, but then looked at art and learning and looking at beauty. So it was great. But that was one nice event from the greater picture of Cleveland Catholic creatives. And the backstory is that I had just graduated from college seminary, Borromeo, and John Carroll University. And so I went from this whirlwind experience of academics in which I was, writing a philosophy thesis and like nerding out and like reading all these books and feeling incredible. And then amidst that, like writing a poem every day and like looking around the world and be like, that's a poem. And just like, and then like the community, I was surrounded by all these people and these friends at John Carroll and obviously like seminary buddies who were super close. And my life just was, it was a lot. Like I never want to have that terrible sleep schedule ever again. But I was just like, it was everything, and it was awesome, and it was a great year overall. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I graduate. Then I'm in my first theology, where you're taking kind of more of the basic theology classes. We had basically every class with the same 7 people. So there's a bunch of 7 guys sitting in a room, with maybe the not the most enlightening theological experience. And also kind of trapped in the seminary a little bit. And so I was like, this is brutal. That was my worst year of seminary. I think, because of that kind of...
it was so different from what you had done before. Yeah.
And then I remember, like, feeling like, there's something missing. And I was like, I'm not writing. Among other things, I think for me, I need my creative outlet. I need community. I need good ministry. I guess I need those in that they help enliven me, they help give me some fulfillment. I guess the only thing I really need is Christ. So let's make that clear. I could be a hermit if I really needed to. So Jesus, don't call me to be a hermit, but if you want me to. So there I was, feeling terribly unfulfilled and trying to write, but also a lack of motivation, all this stuff. And then I meet, at that time, Olivia Kiauskis, or I think I had met her, but like we kind of reconnected, and she was in kind of a lull too. She just graduated from art school at CSU, and she was like, yeah, I'm in a similar place. And then I brought in my other buddy, Mark Cook, he's now a counselor, but he's a magician, also a very creative guy. And so we were all like, we need community. We need to build up each other. We need support. So, and I think the Holy Spirit really seemed to bring us together, because Mark had already connected with me to say, like, there's this Catholic creatives group in different areas. And Mark was like, I don't want to put any work into it, but you should do this. I'm like, you're going to put work into it, and we're going to do this. So we got us 3 together, and then we had a meeting, and then COVID hit. So literally during the meeting, Mark was joking around about licking apples. He's like, "Oh, everyone's going to get COVID." And then everyone did get COVID, and then we were all shut down, and it was all Mark's fault. But kind of. So yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of our backstory. And then COVID kind of, it was a challenge, but then we were fighting through it. But anyway, the goal of Catholic Creatives is to create community, to allow, to inspire creativity, and to allow for collaboration between creatives. And the whole idea is in a Catholic context, because one of the most concerning things that I see in the art world is that number one, it's very secular. Mm-hmm. So I mean, in the sense, secular is not always bad, but in the sense that like it is oftentimes anti-religious. Mm-hmm. Like any idea of religion. If we're gonna have a movie, we're gonna make fun of the priest. If we're gonna lambaste the people who are waiting to have sex until marriage. Like, those are losers. So all this stuff, and And so I've seen firsthand these young creative people, they want to get into theater, they want to get into arts. And then all of a sudden, junior year of high school, they're like, I'm not going to youth group. I don't believe in God anymore. Because they're surrounding themselves with artistic people. And to be an artist, you need to stop believing in God.
Yeah.
And so, number one, culturally, it's also ironic because all of the art that we're consuming is built on a foundation that the Catholic Church provided. You know, the Catholic Church funded for, a millennia and longer the cultivation of the arts to help artists create. You look at music, like notation and all that stuff. That comes from our monks who wanted to create beauty and offer oral beauty to us. And then
I did not know that.
Yeah, isn't that
That's
crazy?
really cool.
Yeah. And so in so many ways, all of our art is just kind of founded on stuff that the Catholic Church helped provide. And the Catholic Church was a refuge for artists. Because to be an artist, to a certain extent, you either need another income or you need people to support you, or you need to be really famous. And so the Catholic Church gave artists a living. But now what we're seeing is that the art community has kind of become their own thing, and now they're kind of trashing the mother that kind of fed them for all these years. And so culturally that there's a problem. And then amongst our Catholics, we need to cultivate more community to give each other a place to belong. And along with that, to give our Catholics a spiritual and theological background that enlivens their art. Because what I've found is that really to believe in a God, to believe in an incarnational truth, that just allows our cultivation of beauty to multiply, to be super fruitful. Yeah. So I think with Catholic creatives, in a greater scheme, the church really needs to be a place to bring people together, to feed people with the beauty of spirituality, and allow that to nourish the creative art. So whether we're making explicitly religious artwork, or somebody is making something that doesn't look religious at all, it's still, their spirituality still bleeds through. And so their values. So if you're a nihilist, the movie, and you're a filmmaker, you're going to make a nihilistic movie that says the world's whatever you make of it, and who cares, we're all going to die. But if you believe in a loving God and a call for communion and redemption, then, and you make a movie, you could have no church, you could have a bunch of sinners, but you still show a world hungering for a God. You still show people desiring, communion and virtue.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I think that's super powerful, to be able to have a group and a community that is creative, but then also ties in religion, ties in Catholicism, because I do see that. I mean, I went to film school for a year, and basically nobody there is religious. And so it was an interesting, I'm still going to do my religious thing while they're doing their thing. Like you were saying, is kind of two different, totally different groups, versus just being one and seeing the value and the beauty in what we can create. And in my mind, it's just this doesn't even make any sense. How could you not believe when you're going and filming all of these beautiful things, and you're utilizing the creation, and you're no. There's nothing above that. It's I'm just gonna go take some video or photos or whatever of that thing, it's like, how could you not like think a little bit more about like, there's got to be something higher than that. I think that's where it like really hits me is you're telling me that like the plants just do that, and like the birds all just do that thing, and like the thing in your like your heart beating is just like it's just doing it just to do it type of thing. Like how is that doing that? And so I think having a community that understands that, but then can bring in the Catholicism and the art all together is a very powerful thing.
Oh yeah. And I think as you're saying, like our worldview, so our Catholic faith should shape our worldview, and our worldview deeply impacts the way that we live and the way that we create, the way that we, work, and so actually a Catholic worldview can transform our art, our beauty, into something way deeper, way more profound. Because again, all beauty should evoke truth. And if our truth is weak and lacking, then the beauty is going to be weak and lacking, So I think there's a reality that, especially growing up, like I've always loved music and movies and things. But the more I grow deeper in my faith, the more I see some of those old songs that I loved a little lacking, my favorite band for a long time was Death Cab for Cutie, indie rock band, and they I just thought these are the deepest songs. And then the deeper I grow in my faith, I'm like, well, I still they're pleasant, but they're really lacking. They're lacking a depth that our faith can offer. And the interesting thing is the lead singer of Death Cab for Cutie did grow up Catholic and had a strong Catholic influence, and I think his more recent songs are getting a little bit more like I need God, so that's good. But also one of my favorite bands now is Arcade Fire, who they're from Canada. Actually, the lead singer went to kind of theology school and things like that, and the truths that he is engaging, in a way, it is so palatable for the secular mind, because he's marketing it in a way that can be consumed by anybody. But what he's saying, and what they are saying as a band, is these profound truths that for me, with having a similar religious perspective, and picking up so much more. These songs that are not just love songs. I know they're songs that evoke a broken world and somebody who deeply, yearns for to get through the distractions of technology, to fight to deal with our woundedness, and to reach out to an all-powerful, all-loving essence.
Yeah, I love songs like that they are Christian, but they don't sound like it. So that when you're like listening to it with like some of your friends who may not be into Christian music, they're like, oh, this is really good. And it's like, got him. It's actually Christian music. But like, yeah, we've been getting into that a lot lately too. Yeah. And also going back a little bit, like how you went to film school, I was involved in like theater a lot, and that is very, very secularized. So I've kind of like had to take a step away from it. Like COVID had a big part to do with that, but like it all happened in a way where I was just like, I need to step back because I know this isn't good for me anymore. I do miss theater a lot, and I know there's like some shows that are like Jesus Christ Superstar, or like they just came out with The Prince of Egypt, which I'm
nice
for. But
one of the best movies ever made, hands down.
Yeah, like there are some really, really good shows, but there are also some that are just like they're very catchy. But like I was listening to these songs on repeat and like wanting to go like audition for some of these like roles, but that is completely not in line with my Catholic faith at all. So definitely like having a conviction of heart to like want to change, and like realizing the beauty in theater and like just performing arts in general, but like wanting to stay true to like your Catholic morals and values is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, and in Chicago, actually, there's a church, St. Alphonsus. It's north of the city. They have a pretty strong young adult community there, and next to the church, I forgot whether it's their property or they bought it, there's a theater. So the church owns the theater, and they work together with artists, and theater people to put on shows, and so they. And so it's not like hand in hand. It's not like a church group doing the theater, but they're making sure that like they can go hand in hand. You know, like that.
Yeah.
And so it's really beautiful that the church is again supporting this artistic organization and giving them a place to create beauty. Supporting them, giving them the place and the money. And those people, those artistic people, are, in a good way, encountering the faith, but bring about good art. Yeah.
Also, one of my favorite like Christian musicals is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. First show I was ever in.
Oh.
It's so good. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's really
Yeah.
good.
I saw it a while ago, but it'd be great to do it again. Yeah, I think it was in high school.
But yeah, definitely.
What do you think it is about the creative community that kind of like has really gone away from any sort of religion, any religious ties? I know I've seen I think it's a TikTok where it is a Christian, and he's like talking to a secular artist, and he's like, okay, can you build me a sculpture, but don't use, like, I don't want any religious or anything tied into it. And then so he starts to grab some dirt, grab some wood or whatever, and then God like pops in and he's like, hold on, like, you get your own, like, I made that stuff. Like, you have to make your own stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want any of it tied in. So I think that's just kind of interesting. But like, what about the creative community?
Yeah. So I think that the problem is that, and again, the irony is that the church has become kind of this institution, a rigid institution that's the man. And artists are always, not always, but very highly tend to be anti-institutional, pushing the envelope. And so in a lot of ways, the artistic spirit is looking at the church in a inaccurate and negative light, and saying, like, you're the man, we need to run away from you. You have the rules. I don't need rules, And so, and also, along with that, the artist community has a little bit been hijacked by these really problematic ideologies of, like, rules are bad, believe whatever you want to believe. So that's a problem. But so the irony comes in because the church has always been revolutionary. You look at the life of Christ; he was absolutely revolutionary. You look at the early Christians, and they were, they were totally frustrating the institution immensely.
Yeah, they were against they were breaking all the rules. They had church in basements and hidden little things inside the house.
And so the church, at its core, needs to be revolutionary, in that it needs to always challenge the world. So when the church settles, I guess the only time the church stops being revolutionary is at the second coming, when the world, heavens and earth become one. Until that point, the church always needs to be preaching the gospel and shaking people up, and running around and making a ruckus. So that's what the church should be, and so the church has failed in a lot of ways. Has kind of leaned too much into institution, and but that's that's just part of the fallen human nature. There will be people in the church failing us, but at its core, I certainly don't believe that the church is inherently corrupted, and know that we can always and really pitch the Christian message in a new way to the world, so that artists can feel so it's good to have that artistic desire to push the envelope to a certain degree, and have a sense of challenge, but doing it inside the context of faith will push the envelope in the right way. So instead of pushing the envelope and saying so instead of being like, oh, well, we're going to push the envelope, we need a better sex scene, or we need to throw out the rules of truth and logic. It's like, okay, well, now you're just making bad art because you're throwing out all this truth and goodness. So really what the church does is it gives a broad framework for artists to work, the truth for artists to work within. And as artists are working within that framework and still pushing the boundaries, they're making the best art that they could. So really any artist who can grow in a prayer life and who can grow in faith and community will improve their art when they have a deeper relationship with God. And it will not turn into just some hokey, religious propaganda. And so I guess this gets into the difficulty of, so because of this difficult dichotomy of artist and church stuff, we now have the church people saying like, well, we're just going to do our own thing. And so the churchy people are making well-meaning art and stuff like that, which sometimes pales in comparison to the secular stuff. So for example, working in media, when you have a churchy people trying to create videography that is poorly done, then all it's doing is shooting ourselves in the foot. It's like, okay, great. We just made something that the secular artist community can laugh at. And so, but I think we're seeing especially again with The Chosen, we're seeing like, there could be Christian content that's well done. So that's good. But we need to kind of move away from just bad art in church, in the Christian community, so that we could be a better witness. But we also need more Christians going into the world and creating good art that, again, doesn't turn people off because it has Jesus on the front cover. So how can we create good... And that's what... We have plenty... C.S. Lewis, Flannery O'Connor, at least in the literary world. And we have plenty of artists that have done that. But that should be our goal. Not to say that we need good, beautiful religious art, but we also need Catholics getting in the world and saying like, we're going to be a part of this, and we're going to redeem it, and you're going to encounter God whether Jesus is in this picture or not.
Yeah, and I think there's even another layer of complication, because it's like, ooh, these people are going to reject me in the secular creative culture area. So if I go in there, like, they're just not going to want anything to do with it. And, those Catholic creatives are going to get canceled, get thrown to the streets and that type of thing. So I think, there's like, it's a bunch of complicated layers and like all these emotions wrapped up into it, versus just like going in there and just being you. Yeah. Being that artist and letting the work speak for itself. Because that's a lot of what I like to say on, I guess business calls or whatever, is that just because you're a Catholic organization does not mean that your media, your social media, your videos, pictures should be lacking. If anything, they should be better, because there is that truth.
Portraying
there's the beauty of what's happening in the church. But it almost always tends to be the opposite way, where it's like, that picture's very fuzzy, and like the video's like, I don't know, like somebody shot it with a potato.
Is that a
or something.
camcorder? I thought that was from the 90s.
Yeah.
Because, Phyllis, who's been part of the parish for 40 years, is still, it's like, no. Let's get somebody, who
Sorry,
knows what they're doing.
Phyllis.
Yeah, sorry, Phyllis. Anybody named Phyllis, it's a great name. But I just had to pick one. But
That is
yeah.
true.
Yeah. I think there's again that issue of I guess settling for
Mediocrity.
mediocrity
Or
and,
even less than mediocrity sometimes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Unfortunately.
Because it's like and I guess sometimes an over spiritualization. So that there's a woman in the film industry named Barbara Nicolosi, and she has this. She gives talks and stuff. One talk that she was talking about was so in the film world she was is a critic and things like that. Someone came to her and said, "We're making this movie of a saint. Can you check it out?" And so she kind of checked it out and was like, "Yeah, this is bad. Like you need to do something better. Like we need it. There's a Cabrini movie coming out that hopefully that looks wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's a great artistic portrayal of a saint's life. But we cannot portray saints' lives with cheesy stories and bad cinematography."
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, these people are like, "Oh, no. Well, God told us to do this project, so we need to do this." And she's like, "Oh, well, God told me that was terrible." And so I'm a message from God to tell you, stop it. And so yeah, we need our spirituality to meet reality and the artistic truths. Like that's bad art. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's this kind of like mindset around just because it's Christian, just because it's Catholic, I want you to support it, versus like, let's make something really good that is also Catholic, that is also Christian, that people want to support. Not just like, you should listen to my terrible song because I didn't curse and I rapped about God or something. Yeah. And so it's like, come on, like make something really good that people want to support, but then that is also religious and ties in the faith.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think about other areas of the Catholic world. So you have beer. So there are monks that still make some of the best beer in the world, and they don't market their beer as Catholic, but it is inherently Catholic because it's been formed in their monastic tradition, and they through their prayerful work have created a great product. And so they don't need to say, hey, buy this because it's Catholic. There are atheists buying that beer, and if they look deeper into it, if they're like, wow, this beer is great, I need to figure out how that was made, they look online, or they go there in person, and was like, oh, it's Catholic, Yeah. And so I think we do need to be careful about like the culture of like, oh, well, you need to buy this because it's Catholic. And it's like, sure, but also we just need to make good things, and by the good things that we make, other people will encounter Christ.
Yes.
So people aren't encountering Christ by or non-religious people are not buying like a very Catholic-y product because they're turned off by it. But if we show our Catholicism through our beauty rather than through our marketing, people will hopefully have a better encounter.
Definitely.
How do we build a powerful culture around not being afraid to implement these religious aspects, whether it's very like blunt and right in your face being religious, or just like slightly religious, or maybe not at all, it's just revealing some sort of beauty? But how do we build a culture where we're not afraid to basically evangelize through art? Yeah.
So I think the most, as you said, like just be yourself, and then the Lord will do the work oftentimes. So so instead of kind of having like our own plan and saying like, we're going to transform the world and everyone's going to know Christ, just say, I'm going to make something beautiful, and we're going to get together and make something beautiful. Probably, yeah, the less we try, the more we actually will just kind of offer something appealing that people can come to encounter. And art is not going to be the best the primary form of evangelization, but art should be a doorway, and especially the more that we can create beautiful art, the more it'll ease the path to our faith. So I think evangelization needs to be personal. It needs to be a personal encounter, and art is just facilitating that. So I think taking the pressure off of art, because I think if we try to make art too much into an aspect of evangelization, then it becomes propaganda. And I think we see propaganda art all the time. That's secular, So art that's saying, like, instead of showing something beautiful, they're showing something to convince you that, you need to believe this about politics. You need to think this way, about immigration. And it's like, well, just show me something beautiful, and the truth will reveal itself. You need to kind of write that in the script. So again, taking the pressure off of art and just saying our art's going to be beautiful, and then then it'll smooth the pathway so that when you encounter a Catholic, when the door you open the door through beauty and you encounter and you're comfortable to encounter the faith, then we can receive you in love.
How do people not get swallowed up into the very anti-religious, secular culture within the art world?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Not easy.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes I'm more and more realizing that our answer to faith in our faith life is community. So how do we bring people into the church? Have good community. We need better preaching. We need better this and that. But if we don't have community, people are going to leave. How do we keep people from getting sucked into a bad community? Well, we give them a better community. And that's why that's why anybody goes to any community, because they feel heard, they feel they belong, and they kind of have a similarity among them. And so you see that with kind of the gay community. They are so good at welcoming. They're not as good at offering life-giving options in which people can live, but they welcome. And so to take that note from the page, we just need to create community that people are drawn to. And so I guess to answer your question, we need to create artistic community that whether it's explicitly Catholic or just tangentially Catholic, we need to create good community. And so that's what Catholic Creatives is about, is to create community. But any way that artists can get together and have similar beliefs and similar values and cultivate their art in that, I guess, safe space, but in that place of faith, that's a win.
Are there any questions that we're not asking you that we should be?
Oh, yeah, that's always a great question. Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I'm trying to think if I had one more thing to say on that the last one with community. But yeah, I mean, I think we really dove deeply into my life, but also the art world and the world of faith. Because I mean, this is what I'm incredibly passionate about. You know, I'm, I just want to allow our, people of faith to encounter the world and create beauty. And so I kind of already feel my head spin a little bit just by, talking so much about this great stuff. So this has been wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Where can people find you, learn more about you, and then also the Cleveland Catholic Creatives?
Yeah. So right now, Cleveland Catholic Creatives, we're working on a website, but we're just on Facebook right now, and Facebook and Instagram. So Cleveland Catholic Creatives. We're working on kind of a rebrand. So we're going to change our name to Incarnate, partly for a few reasons, but partly to make a more artistic name, that reflects who we are, but also a name that hopefully is a little less intimidating, so that if we go to a artistic, like a secular artistic thing, and we set up shop and have like our thing, if our banner says Cleveland Catholic Creatives,
they're like, I can't do that because I'm not Catholic.
They're avoiding us like the plague. It's like there's all these stalls and people are like, oh wow, that's some nice jewelry. They come over to us. Oh what? Oh no. So number one, be more approachable, but also just to give a name that's more beautiful. But we're always going to have a connection with Catholic Creatives in the national sphere. So we're not going to lose our identity. But anyway, so if you search Cleveland Catholic Creatives, you'll always be able to find us. But we will end up changing the name. Me personally, I'm at St. Albert the Great in North Royalton right now. You're welcome to email me here. I'm on Facebook basically. I was making some TikToks, which was fun, but I don't have much time for that anymore. So if anybody wants to take over my TikTok creation, go for it. But I'm gonna need a media person. At some point in my priestly career, I'd like a personal assistant and a media person, but I'm a parochial vicar, so I can't really afford any of that.
There you go.
What about any of your writings? Are those anywhere?
Yeah. So right now, I haven't kind of created a blog or anything. More so because I'm trying to get my works focused on publishing and in official arenas. So I've been working. Well, I need to do a better job at it, but submitting to some local poetry journals, kind of in the secular sphere. But also I'll submit to some stuff. So most recently I was published in oh my gosh, what's it called? Catholic. Shoot, I can't remember. I was published in a Catholic magazine, one of my poems. So, so again, I'm trying to kind of get more in the publishing world. And maybe 20 years down the line, I could get a book out of it. But, so unfortunately, instead of posting it online, I'm more... But if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to share. And I try to share my poetry and different talks that I give and things like that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Yeah.